looking at potentially the likes of a Jarvan if they wanted to, because they pair so well with the Misfortune. Sets you up well for a Rumble pick in the mid lane too. So a nice early to mid game comp for BLG.
Yeah, with the Jarvan 4 being hovered, that is going to be finished off there. So Meteor has his matchup locked on in. He's happy to take the Jarvan up against the Spider Queen herself. And now over to the side of OMG. You'd expect them to be focusing potentially on that bottom lane.
That would ideally be the way you go. I think, again, the lack of Braum in a lot of these scenarios is curious to me, especially when I think you compare so well with something like the Varus. Misfortune on the table, get rid of the ultimate, the Felios and Senna ban. This makes a huge amount of sense to go for Varus and Braum, or even a Varus and Thresh.
We do see the Caitlyn locked in now. This is a bit of a pocket pick for Smlz. We saw it in 10.1. I wasn't sure if it'd still be coming through on 10. Hang on.
We're on 10.4.
10.4, yeah.
10.5 is sometime in the near future.
My brain just had a bit of a malfunction.
Look,
there.
it's a lot of League of Legends.
10.1 and 10.4 just seemed like a very long way away from one another.
About a month and a bit.
We did have 2 months off, didn't we? But anyway, Smlz loves the Caitlyn. That's the point.
And crucially, the build that we see from Caitlyn has actually started to change thanks to the buffs she got into her base attack speed. We're now looking more at an Infinity Edge into Essence Reaver build and delaying when you pick up those Zeal items.
I love this composition already from OMG. Changing up the style entirely. We've got Icon on a pick we know him for, something he can really impact the game on. And we've got Smlz on a comfort pick as well. Hacker managing to get the first pick for his jungle. All around the board, OMG looking more comfortable immediately.
The thing, though, is BLG are starting to opt towards, again, this let's just stop teams doing what they want to do. You've got LeBlanc, who wants to try and go in and assassinate someone. Fantastic. Ring of Frost, Frozen Tomb, she's not going anywhere. You have the same options for the likes of an Elise. Makes it very hard for her to try and play around mid because you've got that claw to try and escape away from the cocoon. It all makes things a little bit more difficult for OMG, which is not what they want to see right now.
Morgana is one of the bans
Maokai
here.
For Kingen. I was not impressed with Maokai from Kingen. I've got to say it against Sunni.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting bans here. Thresh actually going to be taken off the board as well. Not wanting Caitlyn to have that extra safety. So really pinching the pool here for Cold.
And these are perfect bans away for a Caitlyn support. Thresh, you hook, you throw it in the trap. Morgana, you hit the binding, you throw it in the trap. It's such an obnoxious lane to deal with. Just get rid of them, and you don't have to worry about it.
I will say, we know that Cole will play the Blitzcrank.
True.
And you can definitely combo with a Caitlyn with a Blitzcrank. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But OMG going to bat away the Nautilus to finish things off. And now we see where BLG are going to want to go for their 4th pick.
I mean, looking at what they're hovering at the moment, it will be to support. I'm curious to see what they do decide to go with here. The Leona Misfortune is always a strong comp, so that is eventually what they're going to be locking in. And now this is turning into a very much a go-forward comp from BLG. Yes, you've got some things to deal with the likes of Icon and this LeBlanc, but if you're able to Frozen Claw in, Flag and Drag to Cataclysm, you've got the Solar Flare from Leona, this is a very strong wombo combo style from BLG that is looking to team fight, getting your face early, and utilize that 2-item spike nice and quick.
Tahm Kench to go alongside the Caitlyn here. It's not a duo that I've seen often in the bottom lane, but we'll see what Cold and Smlz have to do for that one. One of the big things, one of the big differences here is the Misfortune this time. There isn't as much of an answer for the bullet time on the side of OMG.
Yeah, you're still caught up in it as a Tahm Kench. You're not going to be able to get away from it. It feels like OMG have kind of gone, oh my god, BLG are throwing everything at the kitchen sink at us. How do we get away from it? Okay, Tahm Kench is the obvious answer. I'm not sure if it's the way I would have liked to see them go. I think Braum could have worked a lot better, but here we are.
Here we go. The Quinn locked in for Kingen. We were talking about Kingen being a carry. Now he's got a matchup that he can work with. The Renekton Quinn. If you guys at home don't know already, Quinn is kind of the stereotypical, oh, I'm against a Renekton, time to body.
There is no kind of. Quinn just bodies Renekton. It's so difficult to try and slice in because she's able to use her own E to defensively get away. The blind means you're not able to get the stun. It's all a painful experience for Renekton. So Kingen should be able to take over this top lane. And the big thing as well, you don't have to go for something like the teleport when you've got the Quinn. Because she's got the mobility in her ultimate, she can just zoom around the map, do not a bother on her, and it means they can take the cleanse. So get away from that Renekton Elise, which is usually a really strong combo, but not this time around.
Not when you've got a Quinn on the other side of things. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but Meteor, game number 1, he focused on that top side very early on to get Kingen snowballing, and that was when Kingen was on Ornn. Now Kingen's on Quinn. You expect Meteor to rinse and repeat here and focus on that top lane once again.
But you've got options. I mean, why gank the Quinn when she's going to win the lane anyway? You can go towards mid as well. You can go towards bot. The world is your oyster when you've got this sort of composition coming through because, well, FoFo is going to keep himself safe in the mid. He's on LeBlanc. Great pushing power. Not very much LeBlanc can do. And on the bottom side of the map as well, you've got the Leona. You can be the one to engage here.
We'll see if they are going to be the ones to engage, if they put their front foot forward once again. And Hacker, we already talked about him in game number 1, really not having an impact on the Lee Sin. He's got another early game jungler here in the Elise. We need to see more out of him. He was the feature jungler coming in. It was him and Meteor going head to head. And in game number 1, he's been a little bit exposed. Let's see if he can come back in game number 2.
I'm not convinced, Munch. I'm trying my best to go through the scenarios in my head. And it's looking like, again, BLG have a really strong composition. It's a case of, okay, if we can get through the laning phase, kind of a win lane, win game style from BLG with that wombo combo style later on, that can work fantastically. Whereas OMG, I just don't see an inlet for Hacker in a lot of these situations. We already talked about FoFo has the escape. Jinjiao and Xinmo should be the ones that control the bot lane and don't really pair very well when you look at the Tahm Kench Elise. It's not a matchup you really want to go for a gank with.
I do think that despite the counter matchup in the top lane, this Renekton Elise combo could actually be a shining light for the side of OMG. If they can somehow shut down Kingen, if they can stop him snowballing, maybe some kind of lane swap shenanigans. I don't know. I'm not a color caster, but maybe that combo can save them.
You gotta take every opportunity you can, every potential spotlight or shining light for this team. Already Kingen being a nuisance though.
Poor Curse. Poor Curse. If you guys at home haven't played this matchup, it is brutal. And you see the phase rush actually coming out for Kingen as well, making sure that no matter what the situation, he's going to be able to outpace Curse on the Renekton.
Yeah, I want to see what way Hacker starts off on his jungle pathing here. Has gone for the solo, has managed to pick up the blue, now will be making his way down towards the bottom side. Should be able to try and get a gank off in towards the mid. If Hacker goes back towards this farm-heavy stall, I'm not going to be the biggest fan of it. Meteor, though, level 2 Jarvan is known for those annoying ganks.
Certainly is, and Smlz and Cold don't suspect anything as of right now. Xinmo's going to be here, knock up straight on towards Cold. It's going to be heal used, and that's going to be about it. Obviously, Jinjiao and Xinmo, they weren't even level 2.
This is a bit of a mistake from Smlz and Cold. They have the ward on the blue buff, so they know Meteor hasn't gone and taken that buff yet. Should be making his way down towards that bottom side, so you start to play a bit safe. They're trying to bounce that wave because they were able to attack the wave first, but overextend a little bit and burn the summoner spell.
Yeah, so still a bit of a gain from BLG, but not the kill that they would have wanted. As Hacker comes on into the enemy jungle, Cold's going to roam on up with him. And Meteor fully respecting what's happening, and he's going to be 3-buffed here.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tough start. Hacker, because he was able to clear and didn't have to worry about ganking anywhere, does have the advantage over Meteor. And this is now starting to look a little bit like our first series, where the Jarvan spends a little bit too long on that level 2, gives the opportunity for the enemy jungler to get ahead, and Hacker needs to try and utilize this, snowball this advantage into helping these lanes.
And look at the CS numbers. Meteor is on 8. That Scuttle Crab is the second camp that he's taken. That is not a good sign for the start of the game.
Still see level 2 here, now trying to split the map because he knows Elise is opting into clearing his jungle. So Meteor struggling a little bit, but still towards this top side, still able to help out Kingen. And if you are this Quinn, you're delighted to see that Elise is hovering towards the bottom side because you can fully punish this Renekton.
Yeah, Kingen's going to be able to do whatever he pleases at this point. You can see, I mentioned the CS numbers in the jungle. When you look at the top lane, he's already over double the CS of Curse. There is a few minions under this tower, but for every CS Curse gets, he's going to take an arrow.
Cocoon goes wide in the mid lane. Hacker, unfortunately, couldn't quite get that set up. I feel like when you're going for that, you want Icon to be the one setting up the play, getting the chain to then follow up with the Cocoon, but not going to be the case, and FoFo will live to farm another day.
He certainly shall. Kurt's going to be walking on forward to try and trade, but as we've said, it's a rough matchup, and one of the beautiful things about having such an advantageous lane matchup is you can opt into starting with the Cull. You don't need the extra battle stats. Xinmo going to go in the bottom lane, and Cold actually getting relatively low. It's just going to be a little bit of a trade, all things considered.
I was looking to see where Hacker's moving to. They're trying to make a dive here onto Xinmo. They don't have a play for an Icon. He's gone back to base, so FoFo could roam.
Here we go, Flash Cocoon from Hacker and the straight onto Jinjiao, who is going to be just about fine for now. They decide to back away from this one. They can't commit to the kill.
That's a lot invested as well. The flash from Hacker. I thought they might have gone for Xinmo, but they left the dive so long that the W was back up, had all those innate tanky stats again. So Smlz takes a couple of terror shots and not really too much to achieve.
I'm quite surprised that they didn't finish the kill off onto Jinjiao, but that's life, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm just sad for them. Curse is having a rough time. It feels like across the board OMG's having a rough time. Hacker's trying to make an effort this time. He's been proactive. He's just not managed to get anything.
There's been very little to get. And this is what I was talking about, saying, look, picking this Elise, you want to have lanes where you can try and gank. But every lane is in a losing matchup. That's not where you want to be as Elise. You want to have at least one winning lane that can set you up. Blind was used here. But unfortunately, Curse is not able to get on top of Kingen.
That's so unfortunate, because the ward just timed out as well. That was perfect timing on the ward, but obviously Kingen just able to scout the area. And, well, that's going to be him completely safe on the Quinn. He's now level 6 as well, so he can just skedaddle completely.
Hacker is up here to try and help out Curse a little bit, or at least get a couple of turret plates back in their favor. But if you're BLG, you're fine with this. We already said they're team fighting as a 4-man unit between the Jarvan, Lissandra, and everyone else in the bottom lane is so strong that they really can't try and contest as OMG. Plus, they lose out in the side lane later on with Kingen on this Quinn. So overall, it's just going to be this 1-4 push with FoFo.
FoFo, what a flash coming out from him. Reactions coming through. Is Icon going to get the root down onto his jungler? Hacker there to help deal out the damage, but all things considered, we're just having consistent sparring matches between the two teams.
An optimistic ignite from Icon as well. You're not going to be able to take down Meteor that easily. Now Curse wants to see if he can have in.
He might just find something for himself here. Oh, he should have stayed in that brush. Hacker's going to push on forwards though. They want to take this Raptor. I think if he just waited at the red buff, he maybe could have got a kill onto Meteor.
We'll go across the Hacker. At least it's something that they're snowballing in favor of this Elise. But again, Meteor isn't the big factor here. He's just waiting for the rest of his lanes, and until these objectives come up on the board, has the insurance of Kingen in the top lane. So BLG, no need to try and push these too much until you got full items and 2 items completed on their guys.
See Kingen just scouting around his jungle right now, just making sure that they've all left, making sure that they moved on out. And I like the respect from him, not going to try and go for turret plates, respects that Curse and Hacker are going to come from behind and he needs to be safe.
Hacker should be in control of this Rift Herald. He has, as you're saying, back up there, he's been doing pretty well. Icon is pushing in the mid lane, so I think right now is their opportune time to set it up, especially with FoFo not having teleport. But this is what we mean about OMG. Once they start to fall behind, I'm a lot slower, not entirely sure what they should go for, and oftentimes ends them being picked off when they try to get vision.
Well, this series has certainly been a slow one here between these two teams. Oh, the scan is not quite going to notice the ward. It was right off of the very edge of it, which does mean Hacker's been spotted out. It's not actually going to. It's not going to impact anything, but does give them knowledge that that's happening, and so they can take the dragon.
Yeah, look, it was always going to be that trade. Now we've got to see how Hacker's going to make this work. Already a turret plate gone in the top lane. Could look to try and get Curse ahead. Slow down Kingen taking over this matchup. Because if you get enough gold onto Curse, he can try and burst them out. But Hacker is making his way back down towards the bottom side as the dragon goes over.
Good stuff coming out from BLG across the board there, being able to trade the objectives. The question will be, what can Hacker do with this Rift Herald? And it's always one of the big questions with the Rift Herald in play is, how much can you achieve with that objective? Because just picking it up alone doesn't get you anything.
And that's why we're seeing teams go for these perfectly fine trades where it's like, okay, we're not actually going to move our bot lane up to try and contest for this, because realistically, if we just take 2 turret plates, overall we win. And as well, because you've committed multiple members towards the Rift Herald, we're probably going to get even more than that. And that's kind of what we looked at BLG do. They're like, okay, well, we're probably not going to use this Rift Herald anytime soon to make any big plays. So let's hand it over, pick up a Mountain Drake for ourselves, and look towards putting pressure on OMG with this Dragon Soul coming up and that Elder Dragon later on.
We'll be looking to pressure, that's for sure. One of the big concerns, though, for the side of BLG is obviously their late game has been their weakness, that decision making once we get to those difficult parts of the game. Icon's in trouble and he's just going to be completely locked up and take it down. It's the same as what we saw in game number 1. Nothing happens for a few minutes and then Icon gets caught out.
3 is a bigger number than 2, and that was kind of the situation there. It was both junglers mirroring, but unfortunately not the idea for the supports. And if anyone should be the one moving, it is Cold. He's... Oh, hang on.
Oh, Flash Dominus with the stun onto Kingen. Kiss. I mean, it's a valiant attempt, but he doesn't get anything there. Great cleanse from Kingen, and now he's going to be chased on down. Kiss knows that he can't keep fighting this one.
I think that's frustration more than anything else, and I feel it for Curse. This is not a fun matchup to be in. Tries desperately to get the kill, burns the cleanse, but nothing more.
I mean, to be fair to him, he's actually doing a great job in this matchup. He's only 12 CS down. He's been withstanding the pressure very, very well. The issue is that the longer this matchup goes on, it only gets worse.
Rift Herald will be thrown down to the bottom side of the map, though. Should be able to pick up this turret with just the Rift Herald itself as the tanking unit. Jinjiao is doing their best to clear it out, though.
They might actually be able to just clear this. Jinjiao does get the 25 gold, and it's going to mean that that last plate survives. So, I mean, it's still a good amount of gold coming out for OMG, but they would have liked to finish that tower off.
I was hoping to see more from OMG. When I looked at this roster on paper, I was like, great, we got Smlz coming back to the team. We've got Hacker here to try and provide a bit of stability. But that has not really come to very much. And even FoFo here, I'm looking at this TP potential playing the bottom side of the map to cut off the guys we've just been talking about.
Smlz really wants the tower. He's going to be able to get it in the end. I wasn't sure if they were going to try and pull the trigger onto him, but Hacker remaining in that bottom lane is going to guarantee this objective. And in the end, OMG are the ones to start off strong. 400 is the gold lead for them. Not too significant, but having that first tower often can set the ball rolling.
They need to get it rolling. It's a very slow-paced game, which always goes in favor of BLG when it comes to these two teams. BLG like this pace because they can do the math in their head. They can figure out where they're supposed to go. Icon, we'll get on to FoFo here.
Yeah, very nice little trade on the LeBlanc.
He's trying to get out of this lane. He's fed up with this. He wants to try and get into this mid lane.
He's not going to be allowed to for now, though. And one of the biggest difficulties you're going to find is FoFo. He's always going to be very safe on this Lissandra. It doesn't really matter what Icon does too much. It's very difficult to get a solo kill in that kind of situation.
It's upsetting as well, because in 10.5 she's getting a buff. And that just means she's probably going to be slightly more prevalent. I'm just like, this is an anti-fun champ. I mean, Aftershock, any mid laner is not going to be the most entertaining of laners.
No, Lissandra, not the most exciting champion, but it can be during the team fights. Not in the 1v1, sure, but when you get to the team fights, Lissandra loves to go in, wants to find the 5v5s, and that's where it gets really exciting.
Well, 5v5s have not been the name of this series so far. Very few in the last game until the very end where BLG were like, okay, we're definitely in a comfortable spot to win this. Right now, they're not feeling that. They're actually sitting slightly behind when it comes to the gold. They haven't completed those first items that we said are so crucial for this team. So instead, they're taking it slow. Now, though, with the next dragon spawning, could look to try and take advantage of it.
Oh, Curse is in trouble here. A lot of damage coming out from Kingen. Once again, it is just going to be these trades back and forth, though.
And this is a big problem. Curse should be using this teleport to try and join in before Kingen can get there. But if he's taking these really bad trades before the fight kicks off, but it's going to make it a lot less of a factor coming into this. Has healed up off of some of those pop blossoms, though, so should be okay.
Yep, the honey fruit's going to be able to help him out there.
Yeah,
no Nikos in this game, so pop blossom not going to be an issue for him. But here we go. Dragon started up. Maybe we have a bit of a contest. Kingen has flown on down on the back of Valor. BLG going to be able to take the Dragon, and I am left disappointed as no more fights happen.
Look, we got double play-by-play yesterday. Now we just need double color for this series, so we can just bounce off of each other and realize that, honestly, this is just OMG not picking themselves a helpful draft, not having Hacker be able to do particularly much, even with the early lead that he got. And it's slowly but surely BLG are going to continue picking up wins on the side lane and picking up objectives. Although now,
here we go. It's time for some action. Kingen's under the tower.
And they backed away.
And that's going to be that.
Go.
Woo!
That's what I like to see.
What a fight.
Woo! I mean, do you need a break after that? Do you want some water? Do you want anything?
Yeah,
No?
you take the mic for a minute.
All right, cool. Perfect. Well, look, BLG sitting around, still not doing particularly much. The double carries in the side lanes here, both solo laners, means that they should be able, in theory, push on towards this Rift Herald. But again, OMG need to get some members up here. They have Curse with the teleport. They can look and contest in the same words that I used for this Dragon, but I don't know if they are actually going to. Kingen has made his way towards the bottom side, so this time around, maybe they can actually make the play work with the man advantage.
Hello. Take me back to IG Rogue Warriors, Dagda. That's where my heart is at.
I wish I could.
This is too slow for me. But let's talk about the histories of these two teams a little bit. We already mentioned in game number 1 kind of the score so far, how they've been doing. But I want to mention strength of schedule a little bit, because when you look at the side of BLG, they've got a couple of good wins. They managed to get one win against RNG, but their other opponents so far have been relatively weak opponents. They've been against Suning, LNG, and Vici Gaming. And granted, they didn't even win all 3 of those games, but it just means that the longer this season goes on, the harder it's going to be. I knew it! As soon as I talked story, we're going to get a fight. I baited it out. I'm wrong. They're backing away. Smlz walks forward. Jinjiao just going to be tagging him up a little bit. So because they've had some easy games to start the season off, it does mean that later on in the season, the games are only going to get harder for them.
And I feel sad as an OMG fan. Oh, hang on.
Kingen could be in trouble here. Icon making a play, and this is
There
what
we
we know
go.
him for. Love to see it in the top lane. Now Herald dropped in the mid. And Smlz going to be able to back this one up. They might be able to finish the turret off. Doesn't have a headshot available, though.
They will get top lane tower, though, and if they want to just keep pushing here, they should be okay. Keep your eye on FoFo off to the side, though.
Couldn't quite follow up with a trap. FoFo tries to find a way in. Headshot onto the tower. And Smlz happy to just tank that one up as he finishes it off. And that's the power of the Caitlyn. Your siege is incredible.
I want OMG to do well in this series, though. I want them to do well in the LPL. This was the team back, if we go, Season 4, 2014, where OMG were in their prime. They were the ones representing the LPL at the world stage with the likes of Going and Cool and this awesome team, but Curse was not part of that.
Catch onto Curse here. Jumps over forward to get the Ring of Frost as well. Meteor and FoFo can comfortably 2v2 this, and Curse has no support coming his way. Or does he? Cold does have that ultimate available, so I'm very wrong there. But I want to ask you a question, Dagda.
Yes.
Because we just watched Icon recall while the enemy tier 1 top was on about 1/8 of its HP. After we can take another look at this assassination, but it's just Icon doing LeBlanc things.
True.
Why does Icon not finish that tower before recalling?
You got to be careful. Kingen is able to get to these lanes incredibly quickly. They didn't have vision on where Meteor was at that time as well. So it's just OMG trying to play it safe, because if we've seen what happens. One pick goes across, BLG takes so much off of it, so they're giving a little bit of leeway to it.
Oh, Smlz gets it.
What a baller!
Steals away the red buff. This is my kind of Caitlyn gameplay right here. Icon going to be able to finally finish that turret off, and we'll be able to clear the wave as well, and then regroup with his team probably.
Going back to what I was saying though, for OMG. They looked like they were kind of the the team to beat in the LPL for such a long time, or at least pushing that upper tier. And then you looked at what happened in 2019, and they were sitting dead last at the bottom of the table. This was the year where I looked at them and went, okay, we got Hacker coming back, we got Smlz, the victims of what was the 2014 lull in Chinese esports, or at least in Chinese League of Legends. They were the biggest proponent of losing all their players to retirement and not having the new breed to come through. Now, potentially, they have it, but against a team like BLG, a lot of their weaknesses are being exposed.
And oh, hang on. Icon goes in. Gonna go out again. I don't think we're going to see a fight just yet, but Dragons spawning onto the map might just spark something off BLG. This would be their third Dragon of the game. And OMG obviously don't want to just allow that to happen. Smlz finally moving over from the mid lane. In fact, no, he's going to just go for the push. OMG just going to try and stall the fight. No, Smlz, he's
doing it all!
He can't decide what he wants to do on this one. Half health on this Infernal Drake, and in we go. Xinmo on the front line. Bullet time across them, but Cold tanks it up pretty handedly. Curse bullied on out. The Cataclysm is going to be enough for Meteor to finish the kill. It's 1 for 1 though. FoFo went down as well. Blind onto Icon. In goes Xinmo once again. Meteor's there, but OMG are winning out the fight. Kingen cleanses nothing, and Jinjiao, sorry, is going to be finished off. Oh, the flash from Smlz. He wants the 1v1, and Caitlyn's the queen of that.
And I love the way OMG play this fight. If BLG can't just run through them in these bursting scenarios, well, OMG will win the long con. They're the ones that have the consistent damage from this Caitlyn, and we saw it right there. Don't get onto the Caitlyn. Everyone from OMG is on low health bars, but not dead, and they can turn around. Icon picking up the double kill. But watch the way they're positioned here. Icon is not caught up in the bullet time. Instead, it's going to be the Tahm Kench, which can go golden. Curse as well, which opens up the fight and forces Meteor away. And it means the return of OMG, the bounce back in this fight with the consistent damage, and they can turn it in their favor.
And you can see Cold on the Tahm Kench saving Smlz during that fight, but also towards the start of the fight, bullet time comes out. Pretty much everyone on both sides of the field goes golden. And Smlz is like, oh, you're all in Zhonya's? I'm just going to place a trap here, a trap here, a trap here. Headshots galore. And is able to finish off FoFo off the back of it. But you mentioned about the roster changes. You mentioned how this is the new version of OMG and how they've been struggling since some roster changes of olden times. Well, this is Smlz back on the roster, and so far, when he's looked good, he's looked great.
And you see it here. As you said, I mean, pretty much shouting bingo as he gets everyone into those traps, picks up a bunch of gold for himself, now sitting with a 350 gold bounty in conjunction with Icon. We talked about how this team is Icon plus the backup dancer as well. I mean, Smlz making a strong answer for him being the lead singer. I mean, making the Destiny's Child look like a very different scenario. 28% of the team's damage, looking incredibly strong, has been a big factor in pushing OMG in these previous wins. And now they're looking to try and seal the deal against BLG.
And this is just a question of what on earth happened to BLG? Game 1, they didn't allow anything to OMG. OMG literally couldn't get a foot on the map. Game number 2 now, it was neutral, and then suddenly BLG just lose control of the entire map.
I feel like BLG are kind of similar in a way to E-Star, where a lot of their plays come through their jungle. And with the way Meteor played the early game, being neutralized on his level 2 gank, falling behind to Hacker, he wasn't confident enough to get back out on the map and try and make the plays happen. So BLG, as a result, started to fall behind, but Kingen is not someone who's behind right now.
I love how aggressive Kingen is on this Quinn pick. Not going to go under the tower, but happy to just use the Blade of the Rune King immediately at the start of the fight, get the slow, and push that advantage.
And this is what we're talking about. BLG looking for this 1-4 style. And in theory, at the two-item point, they should be the ones winning out. They hadn't quite hit those 2 items, though, when they took that fight at Dragon, and OMG won out on that scrap. Now OMG could try and keep this pressure going forward because of the 5k gold lead they find themselves with.
Well, Colonel 3000 at the bottom of your screen reckons that OMG have a 63% chance of winning at this point. So, I don't know how accurate he actually is.
I don't know if I take those odds.
I'd love to see his statistics. I'd love to see how often he's right on the favorite.
But see, it's easy because he always changes his statistics. So technically, he's never wrong. You know.
Well, He does only do like 1 or 2 per game, though.
True.
So he must have been wrong at least once ever, right?
I don't know, he's the Colonel.
KFC is not always the answer, Dagda. That's a bad habit.
But look, there goes another shot. I like the way Smlz is like, we're not going to be fighting anytime soon, so I'm going to fling this out, even though this misfortune is probably going to back right.
Yeah, going to be heading back onto base, and that's typically the way you play the Caitlyn, especially in these kind of slower games, just trying to get a bit of harass down with the ace in the hole. Does do a good chunk of damage.
I was actually looking at the Caitlyn build there. We were talking about before this game started that the new Caitlyn build that comes through, where you go for the Infinity Edge, you go for the Essence Reaver, because she's got so much innate attack speed that you just end up winning out, win more damage because of it. With the build that we're seeing come through from Smlz, he slowed down a lot of the damage that could potentially be coming out, particularly when you're looking at how squishy the health bars are on the side of BLG.
But it's very much a team fight build, because this is all about just as much damage across the entire team as he can get. Hurricane on Caitlyn. It's not something you see very often, but I guess 3 auto attacks is better than 1.
The math does check out. I'm not gonna lie, but no, it's still it's just you get more raw AD. You're able to attack so much faster. Your headshots hit harder. The traps hit so much harder. Even when you get one with the net, there's so much utility that you can get from just the raw AD stats. And delaying more of that AD come through, it's not really the best way to go, particularly if OMG are looking to try and go toe-to-toe in these early team fights. But team fights are not what's happening right now. It's picking up objectives, taking things nice and slow, and Hacker will add the second dragon of the game to OMG's pocket.
Icon looking for a pick here on towards Meteor. Does get the chain actually, but everything else will be on cooldown. Ace in the hole blocked by Xinmo. And now over towards this Baron as Icon's getting chased down by Kingen. The rest of his team is here though, and Kingen, he's got a lot of damage, but he's very squishy. Smlz will burn through that health bar.
Everyone from OMG coming up to try and help him, apart from Hacker, who can push in that mid lane.
He can't clear wards anymore because he's got the Hurricane, so he aggroes Baron.
See, worst build, terrible build. Can't even kill wards.
I remember there was like a bit of a debate about Hurricane on Caitlyn a long time ago, back when Caitlyn was meta, and it basically came down to sometimes if you are regularly hitting multiple people, it can be better DPS, but generally speaking, the Shiv rapid fire cannon was the high DPS build, at least at the time.
I can see at the moment how Smlz would go for the Runins. Look, you're going to be having Meteor in your face, FoFo in your face, probably Xinmo in your face as well. And with the range that you've gotten, you should be able to poke and hit multiple members. So I can see it come through in that scenario. It's more delaying the extra AD coming through that I've really got an issue with. He's sitting at 203, almost 300 CS as well. So this Caitlyn is going to scale more and more and will eventually take over these team fights. But it's in this side lane with Kingen, who's now starting to create an IE of his own and become a lot more of a nuisance for Curse, that I'm waiting to see how OMG start to approach this.
Smlz is such aggressive positioning on this Caitlyn. Does get away with it though, no punish whatsoever. And one little interaction about the Hurricane that if you don't play Caitlyn you might not know, each of the little auto attacks does count towards your headshots. So that is one of the big benefits of this build. If you are getting multiple hits with the Hurricane, you will get your headshots a lot quicker. Or at least that's how it used to be, unless they changed it.
I'm not certain that it is anymore. It's been a while since I've seen Caitlyn, to be honest. But I'm not 100% certain it is. Anyway, they're going to start up this Baron. Are going to have Curse come across as well. So here we go. OMG with the man advantage. They know Kingen's on the bot side, and they stop it.
We could have a fight on our hands, or we could not. I guess the answer is we won't.
Look, if Colonel was here, he'd tell us we're not going to have a fight.
He'd say that there's a 60% chance that we don't have a fight. Oh, Robo Colonel, I miss you so. Here we go, though. Hold and Smlz stepping forwards. Nice little headshot onto FoFo. Icon wants to pick onto Jinjiao. There's a headshot as well. And the damage just isn't there. Oh, Ignite isn't enough. And if he had another BF sword, it would have been.
Exactly. You see, would have been able to take him out. But with that misfortune back in base, now OMG have the opportunity to start up this Baron. Kingen is a long way from home, but can cover that gap pretty fast.
pretty fast, but not as quick as a TP. This Baron is surely going to go down. 2,000 health remaining. No, they want the fight right now. Solar Flare misses onto Smlz. He's DPSing over the wall onto Xinmo. Meteor, the first one to fall. Here's Kingen, though. He's coming to the fight. Smite onto the Baron, and Kingen forced away. Hacker can't follow that one up as the fight continues up towards the top side. Cold jumping behind the rest of his team. Icon on 1 HP. But it's too much for the Misfortune. She's gone way too far, and FoFo has 2. Everyone's surviving for OMG.
Smlz played that fight so well. Able to finish off the jungler for BLG. Meteor goes down, instantly turned on towards the Baron to finish it off. And as well, turning on and forcing Kingen back before a beautiful trap. The creme de la creme to pick off Jinjiao as he came around the corner. Beautiful stuff from OMG's AD carry.
Really fantastic play coming out from OMG. Just great objective control here, knowing that they can force the Baron with Kingen in the bottom side. And then BLG, a very scattered call on the contest. It felt like they were all over the place. Kingen coming from one side, couldn't really do anything by himself. And the rest of the team engaging at different times.
Yeah, BLG have lost their opportunity, and OMG are capitalizing so heavily, forcing Meteor out, not able to take control of his jungle, and this comes back to where we said BLG were strongest, in that 2-item spike. But the problem is the rest of OMG have surpassed that 2 items, pushing towards that 3rd, and BLG are struggling.
And this is where Caitlyn will really come into her own. The siege is unbelievable. You can see the traps absolutely everywhere. It's so difficult to close the gap onto Smlz, and with the siege up cannons as well, this is going to be an inhib in the mid lane going down. And by the looks of things on the bottom side, you have a lot of pressure coming out from Icon. Kingen starting to fight. Smlz, he's got a Vamp Scepter. He'll be able to heal that up very quickly.
3rd Infernal Drake is about to spawn for OMG as well, so I feel it's take this inhibitor turret and then back away, or you can be Icon and just say, nah, screw that, we want everything for ourselves.
Teleport in though from FoFo. He's gone into the jungle behind the likes of OMG. We've got a fight on our hands as FoFo going to find his way in. He's stunned up by the cocoon though. Bullet time onto Xinmo, who's taken down immediately. FoFo has to keep himself alive with his ultimate as Meteor can't do much, and this is just a goal difference right before your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, as OMG hold fast in the fight. They are not intimidated by the Lissandra, and nothing can push them back here. This is going to be game 2, just as one-sided, but on the other side of the board is OMG even out the series.
And just as slow as well. This was OMG beating BLG at their own game. When I looked at this game, I thought that, okay, we will go to all 3 games, but I expected to be one OMG just snowballing out of control like crazy, BLG taking another one, and I wasn't sure how this 3rd one was going to go. I wasn't sure if we'd get to the late game and we'd see that classic BLG where they throw. Instead, look, it's call a spade, okay?
Here's the thing, though. At least they did something. Because ultimately, in that position, when you've just lost 2 inhibitors, you're not going to win, right? No. You're not going to win if you play that one slow. So just go for the play. I like that FoFo TPs in and goes, hey, let's just fight them. Let's see if we can win a 5v5. If we can, hey, we get the dragon. Maybe we can turn this into something. If they just accept the loss of those 2 inhibs and a dragon, I think that the game is over on the spot.
Well, on your screens, you can see Smlz was an absolute monster that game. I think that the damage graph doesn't really represent how big Icon was, though. Finding that pick onto Kingen really was the start of this. Okay, OMG can do this. We can find the fights, we can find the picks, and we can take this game.
But it does show how kind of passive this game was. The fact that Smlz only has 24,000 damage, when we've been looking at previous games in the LPL, the highest damage is closer to 40,000. This is over a 30-minute game as well. But OMG, great job, great macro play as well. And that's not something that we're usually saying about OMG when they usually get their wins. It's much more of a snowball and just winning out the skirmishes that gets them the win.
Again, it's controlling the jungle, though. BLG didn't have the early game aggression from Meteor. They didn't have the lane dominant style that can start to snowball their advantage. They lost out on Rift Heralds, and this was what we talked about. OMG get 2 Rift Heralds, they stop BLG in their tracks, and they're the ones that win this game. Rift Herald seems to be the big factor for BLG.
And honestly, maybe Olaf is the big factor for BLG because Meteor on Olaf looks amazing. Meteor, though, on Jarvan didn't look so hot. Maybe this is a blue side kind of game. We'll see which one BLG are going to pick for game number 3. I have a feeling it might be blue side.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I'd definitely go with the blue side. It gives you so much pressure, particularly when we are solely focusing on that jungle. Picking up something nice and early for yourself, whether it's the Elise, whether it's this Olaf if it's left open, whatever that might be, just getting control there means so much for these teams.
Yeah, and I'm surprised at how little impact the Jarvan had, because we've seen a lot of Jarvans in the LPL. It's one of the higher priority junglers that we're seeing coming on through. And generally speaking, it is one of these big impact champions. Generally speaking, it will win out the early game in the team fights, but didn't really see that much from Meteor.
Now, I thought we'd see him more towards that top side, supporting Kingen, getting the side lane ahead. But once he did start to fall behind, he had no interest in getting out onto the map. Potentially just afraid of running into Hacker. Hacker had gone for the Conqueror, so these skirmishes and duels were going to go in favor of the Elise. That could have been the play that he was afraid of, but unfortunately meant the whole game just felt lackluster from BLG.
Well, we're going to have to see how the third draft will go in this series. We've had two now, both totally one-sided. We'll find out how the third one is going to go right after this.